to talk. It might be one of our most controversial shows.
You know, we never shy away from taking on the big issues.
I mean, I do. I try to back down, and you're the guy always pushing the envelope here. That makes me nervous. You're hurting my reputation. Being this kind of a quiet little guy with no controversy.
Right.
Interesting topic. I mean, it really is. When you notified me about this topic last night, I said, oh, wow, this one might be a little tough.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about, rape today. We're talking about rape. We're talking about a Washington Post article came out discussing a new documentary about one of the things in the documentary is about Jameis Winston and the accusations against him by a college student, that he raped her.
Mm-hmm.
And just a real quick summary of the accusations were is that the girl was alone in a college bar, and Jameis Winston, in her mind, she thinks he stuck something in her drink, took her home, and had sex with her, and she accused him of rape. Now, it didn't really make it that far because she says that the university talked her out of it because he obviously was the Heisman Trophy winning quarterback who then the next season won a national championship. So he's an important guy.
Right.
So
I think probably in the minds of the authorities, she should have considered herself fortunate that like the Heisman Trophy winner,
you got with the Heisman Trophy
star
winner.
Quarterback was even interested in it.
Why are you complaining? Was pretty much the way that went.
Yeah.
But, and at first when Rabbi Freeman mentioned this talk to me, I was appalled. I'm thinking, come on, because Rabbi Freeman may be taking the position that maybe the girl has to share some responsibility in this.
Well, yeah.
And me, I'm thinking that's horrible. But then I got to thinking a little bit. I'm in a more unique situation. I'm in a different situation than you are, Rabbi Freeman. Mm-hmm. My children, I have a boy and a girl, both freshmen in college. Mm-hmm. They go to school. You didn't have to deal with what I have to deal with. I have a little bit more pressure. Your children didn't go to a big university where there's all these things that can happen to them out there. And I got to tell you, I have different discussions every night with my son and my daughter, and they're not similar at all. Because, they go out, they go to parties, they both go to fraternity parties, my daughter does as well, and to other parties. And my conversation with my son is short and sweet, have a good time, be careful, don't drive, get home safe. My conversations with my daughter are totally different. I speak with my daughter every single time she goes out, before she goes out, while she's at the party, when she leaves the party, and I do not hang up the phone with her sometimes till she gets back into her dorm room. I don't care what time of night it is, and I'm also an hour ahead in time, so it could be very late. Right. And I make sure she's in the house. And the conversations go like this, and she says, yeah, Dad, I've heard it. Who are you going with? Right. Who are you going to be with? Do not ever be alone. Make sure you have a wingman. Your friend has got to be there with you. Do not ever get a drink from a guy. You have your own drink. You don't put your drink down. You keep your hand over your drink. Right. You never do that. You never, and then I'll call her in the party. Are you with so-and-so? Because I know who she's with him. You're not leaving them alone, are you? Are you alone? And I mean, to the point where my daughter says, yes, but I do it every night. I did it this weekend again. And it's the same thing over and over and over.
And you speak to her until she gets back into
and
to her dorm room or a dorm room?
To her own dorm room, and that's why it's on the phone, not just by text. And
you have GPS?
I've tagged her. She doesn't know I've tagged her with GPS. But I make sure she doesn't, because sometimes they walk home. Are you walking home with a group of people? Are you on the campus? So that's how we do it. Now, I know I can't protect her 100%, but I know it's a good thing that I can protect her better. So I thought about it. There is, in today's world, and I hate to say it, there is some responsibility on the girl. Now, listen, you cannot protect them. There are bad people out there. Things can happen anywhere. I mean, there's nothing you can do to protect your daughter 100%, but things can happen. But you've got to do some things. You've got to do certain things. If you're going to live in the secular world today, there's some things that you got to do. So I'm going to give you a little leeway here.
Do you know, what was the name of this documentary?
Hunting Ground.
The Hunting Ground, yeah, something like that. Hunting Ground.
And I do remember that from college, by the way.
And what are they referring to over there? They're talking about that, like, society out there, college campuses, are hunting grounds. And what is the game that are being hunted? It's your daughter is what they're hunting.
Well, that's why I'm calling my daughter. I was in that hunting grounds before.
Your daughter's walking around with a bullseye on her, and there's a bunch of guys. They were all hunting her.
But she's going to the same school I went to. I remember how it was, and that's why I'm so concerned, because I was on the hunting side of that grounds at some point in my life.
Right, like having what a switch, having been the hunter, now he's like, he's got a daughter who's a deer.
Right. It's a difficult position to be in. Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So really, Jameis Winston is just like the the most high-profile, classic example of that, and also how the whole society has so much invested in the guy, and that they really could care less about this girl in this particular case. But
Well, she didn't play football.
right. So, and he's important.
Right.
She's meaningless. But this whole thing, really really struck me, because I started asking myself, when I climbed out from under this rock that I've been living under for like the last century.
Or two.
Right, yeah,
Two
right.
centuries,
At least 2 centuries. Right. So I climbed out from it, and I'm looking around, like, what's going on here? So you hear this story. Isn't that strange? Now, I would venture to say, by the way, that today, no way, maybe somehow or another, I could verify this, but the facts and figures would all be skewed, and it wouldn't really be, I don't think it would really hold water. However, it seems to me that today, in our enlightened society, with so much respect for different genders, with so much more equality, certainly a long way to go, but so much more equality for women, with women having jobs, all various different levels of government and everything like that.
Right.
I would venture to say that on an average day, there are more women being raped by a figure of who knows how many more times than there was a century ago.
I'm sure you're right.
Not that there's always been rape, and it's, but on what's going on a daily basis, is like way the numbers are exploded. What is going on? So this is the question that I asked myself. I heard the story. I heard the description. Heard someone reading the article. So they're reading the article, and they're saying, she was at a bar. Okay, she's at a bar. She is obviously unaccompanied. She's at this bar, and some guy comes over and is trying to pick her up, and she really didn't want to have anything to do with this guy. Jameis Winston steps in as her like knight in shining armor, and he protects her from the guy. But then it turns around and he takes her for himself, and this is like when one wolf is chasing after, then the other wolf comes in and drives the first one away, and then he takes it, right? So he takes her away, and then he does all this bad stuff to her. So I asked myself, what was she doing in that bar? She obviously was unaccompanied, right? She had no friends. She wasn't with a group of friends, right? So she went to a bar. Why did she go to the bar? Did she want a drink? Was that it? Because she just needed to like stop in and have some alcohol? Was that her story? No. Who are the type of people that populate bars? Now, if you told me that she was like at a McDonald's all by herself, and some guy was hitting up on her, she was in the school library, working, and some guy was making advances or something bad happened, but in a bar. She went to the bar. What did she think was going to happen in the bar? Why did she go there? What exactly was her intention when she went there? Did she think, well, I like to get a drink before I do my homework, or I like to get a drink before I turn in for the night? I mean, was that all? She just went for an innocent drink by herself? Is that, I remember some stuff about people who drink alone, but like, what exactly was she thinking? Why did she go there? So, was she going there to perhaps meet someone? Was it someone that she didn't know? So, if you tell me that she went, did she then go to a bar because perhaps she'll meet someone that she does not yet know and make new friends? That's where she makes new friends, in a bar? So, my heart, as much as I feel that she was taken advantage of, and as much as allegedly, yeah, right, okay, and as much as if the things happened as they said, right? Because we don't want to get right. Yeah, don't. So if these things happened as they said, then Mr. Winston is a real scum, and all of the entire structure of the community that is wrapped around Mr. Winston are all complicit, because they're basically all, like scum plus one or plus two, or Mr. Assistant Scum or whatever they are, right?
Well, but to give them a look, it was for a national championship.
Yeah, right. So, right. It was a lot on the line. Understandable, okay, right? So right. Forget that. But still, I'm wondering what is going on with this girl. What was she thinking? Now, is there not a measure of personal responsibility now of what your conduct is? as a matter of fact, I could even understand a scenario where a man understands that if he meets an unaccompanied girl in a bar, she, by her very presence in that bar, has basically said, I am here to, that I'm ready for action, if I so desire.
So you have read that rule book, because that is the rule. That's fair game, is what we call that.
Yeah, I mean, please, now, listen, if someone, grabs a woman when she's like walking to her car or something like that, or breaks into her apartment, these are horrible things. But
a girl in a bar like that does expect it to be approached. She expects, that's why she's there. And I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. You might be, but that right now for this conversation. But she definitely expects it, and it is in the guy's.
So now,
he's supposed to approach her there.
Now there's got to be this whole protocol, and then she's sort of advertised her willingness, but only to a certain extent. And then there's got to be all these signals, and if she says a signal like I don't want to, then the guy's supposed to stop. Well, in my book, you can keep educating as much as you want and start training all the little boys when they're in kindergarten and tell them all the correctness and everything to be proper. But the bottom line is, if you don't walk in the bar in the first place, nothing is going to go wrong. It's the old, it's sort of like the old adage, ain't nothing good happens after 2 a.m.
Or midnight.
Yeah, whatever, depending on where you live, right? Yeah. I mean, there's certain things where people have to take certain responsibility. Which brings us to, what does the Torah have to say about this?
There we go.
Knew I was going to get there.
Yep, I knew that.
Okay.
Get there at some point.
So our sages created an entire body of law to govern all these situations because they understood exactly how these things happen and what could go wrong. And the title of the entire body of law is called the Laws of Yichud. Yichud means being alone. One person, a woman, being alone with a man. Now, being alone, so what you do is, according to these rules, you can never be unaccompanied. Members of the opposite sex are not allowed to be unaccompanied. If they are unaccompanied, they have already transgressed, meaning someone has already committed a sin by being alone, allowing themselves to be alone with the other person. So if you're going somewhere, you go with other people. If you're going to be somewhere where there are other men, let's say, you first make sure that it's going to be in a public environment. You would not want to find yourself alone with another person in there because everyone knows what can happen. This is so many of these stories you read, like, they were in a dorm room or they were in his or her apartment when something went bad. Well, how did you get in that apartment in the first place? Why did you go? When I am such a Cro-Magnon that I recall in the movies, there was that line where he shows her back to her apartment and then she says, would you like to come up for a nightcap? Well, if he didn't say, would you like to come up for a nightcap, then there's the next scene of him walking down the street, holding his hat and rats, right? But if she says, would you like to come up for a nightcap?
It's been a while since you've seen a movie.
Right. So if he says, would you like to, then that's when we know what's going to go on, okay? So, but once he says, would you like to come up for a nightcap, I think that's sort of
fair game.
It's a done deal.
Yep.
It's a done deal. So you're supposed to stop it right there. Well, someone's out and someone's in it, So the laws of Yichud govern all the different situations, and there are many laws on top of that, as well as numerous customs that are overlaid to that situation. So, for example, talk about, what it was. So, when my wife and I dated, so, I pulled up to the house with the buggy, and I hitched it up to it up to the gas lamp outside right. So anyway, we dated in places such as the airport.
That sounds like a fun date.
Right. We went to hotels, hotel lobbies, where you can sit in the lobby and you can order a drink and that type of thing. We went to malls. Those are the places that we dated. And if we did something active, they were like public active things, like if you went bowling or can go to an arcade, but these are places that are like.
Now, if my kids are listening to this right now, they're going, Rabbi, what are you talking about? This is 2015.
Right. So all I can say is, if you don't do that, and then it doesn't work out to your satisfaction the other way,
right?
Then who do you have to blame?
Now, I agree with you on some level. Listen, I don't think your answers are perfectly right for everybody right now. I think it'd be tough to do it. I agree with you. Everything you say, you're right. You're not going to get in trouble in this situation. It's not going to happen. But I think there are, what other people do, they take these situations even further, but with a left kind of approach. Right now on college campuses, especially up in the Northeast, where there's a little bit more of a liberal mindset, and out west, their way of answering this thing is, okay, you can do what you want. You can go to a bar. You can do what you ever do. But then we're going to put the pressure on the guy. We're going to say the girl can come around wearing immodest clothing. She could be coming on to you, if that's the word you want to look, as hard as she can. She could take you back for the nightcap. She can do whatever she wants. She can get you all that. But when the new yes, just say yes program, which is not saying, in every step of the way, if you want to make advances toward her in any way, whether it's to hold her hand or something further, you have to ask for her permission and almost in an oral agreement, get an agreement for each step. And even if the girl the next day, even if the girl is as happy as can be, the next day she changes her mind and says she had too much to drink, that's rape.
Right.
So the problem is, if you don't do it, and I think everybody should be listening to this, if you don't have the mindset that Rabbi Freeman has, you're going to get yourself in a different situation, not just if you're the guy or the girl. The guy's getting in a problem because the next day she could change her mind. The next day, all those great lines you used, everything you did, they don't matter the next day, and you can be accused of rape.
Right. Well, there's always, it's very interesting.
Because there is no responsibility for the women.
This is interesting. It's the Torah has a special way of talking out of both sides of its mouth at the same time. And it's a good system. For example, let's say in this system, the Heisman-winning quarterback is accused of actually having drugged the girl. Listen, that's nasty. That is a bad thing. It's a punishable crime, no matter how you cut it. I don't care who you're talking to. I don't care what the girl is wearing. You're not allowed to drug girls and take advantage of them. I don't care what the girl did. There is, just like I would suggest, responsibility for her. There is responsibility for him. So the Torah says two things at the very same time. If I'm talking to him, I'm going to say, you are totally responsible. You can't do anything until you get absolute acquiescence. You should be absolutely sure you cannot take advantage. You have no right to treat her like she's, your hunted quarry that you found and all that stuff. That's when I'm talking to him. Now I turn around to her and I say, you are totally responsible for seeing to it that you don't get yourself in that situation. And, everyone in this thing has total responsibility for themselves. Not one side or the other, but both sides have total responsibility. And where the society is wrong, I don't mind their preaching to the guys that they have to restrain themselves and that they can't take advantage, because it's true, they're supposed to, and they can't take advantage. And I don't care if the couple is married. A husband cannot take advantage of his wife. Okay, they're living together, they're sharing the same bed. A husband doesn't take advantage of his wife. That's one rule. On the other hand, there's rules for wives. There's rules for the guy. There's rules for the girl. Everyone has 100% responsibility.
You must not be in our society today, because there's no such thing as everyone has 100% responsibility in our society. And I agree with you, and that's where, when I did my talking out of both sides of my mouth last night, when I was thinking about your conversation, I agree. There is no responsibility in today's society on the woman at all. When you tell them the next day, listen, you got drunk, but now you feel bad about drunk and you shouldn't have got drunk and it's his fault, that gets rid of that responsibility. And yes, are you dressed appropriately? And again, I'm not saying anything wrong with that, but if you are dressed that way, you should be expecting, and you probably are, and wanting someone to come up and talk to you, and then you better be able to handle it from there. You better not be too drunk to handle it. You better be able to handle the situation.
See, the reason they're afraid of putting any responsibility on the girl is because that seems to be an excuse for the guy.
Which it should not be.
Right. So, like according to the Torah system, you can put 100% responsibility on both sides at the same time. Putting responsibility on the girl does not excuse the guys whatsoever. So, the fact that I say to the girl, you have to dress modestly, and you have to avoid these circumstances, so on and so forth. I say the same thing to the guy. You have to control yourself. You have to respect her. You have to stay away, and you have to avoid those very same situations. It's not like we're putting all the burden on one side or the other. That's why they don't want to put any burden on one, because it's presumed if you put burden on one, it's automatically a release of burden on the other. But we don't mind doing that. We put that on everyone in any given circumstance. I don't care if it's the buyer and the seller, if it's the poor man and the wealthy man, if it's a man and a woman, parent, child, everyone has responsibility to do for themselves. As a matter of fact, in any interaction, everyone has 100% responsibility.
Wow. I mean, that just doesn't go well in today's society. I don't know how you can make that speech and even survive in today's society. Because we're in a society today where we have no responsibility. In fact, none of us have responsibility for anything. I mean, that's pretty much what we want. The government will take care of you. It's not your fault. No responsibility.
Right.
Well, okay, so to bring you personally into at least the 19th century, let's discuss then what realistically, and I understand your answer, but don't go to a bar. Your answer would be don't go to the fraternity party. But but that's probably not going to happen for a lot of people out there, and a lot of people. But is there a way they can still take responsibility, and my daughter could still go to the fraternity party because now she goes to a big college, and I because as I said, I'm on the phone every night. This is what you should do. This is what you should do. And I'm not saying she listens to me every night, but this is what we do. Is there a way to make it through there by taking responsibility?
You go, oh yeah, you always go in pairs or more.
Oh, trust me.
You always go in pairs, and at the moment that you release your buddy, if you say, well, I'll see you later. At that moment, that you have just made a commitment. You have just said, it's like basically, if you're drinking and someone says, I'll be your driver, as soon as you send the driver home, well, you just got yourself in trouble. So everyone knows that. Everyone should pair people. Okay, you want to go to the bar? Go to the bar. Go with someone.
That makes sense.
What are you doing? What exactly was the plan, and why would someone, as a single man or woman, be going to the bar? Obviously, a single person goes to a bar to meet other people. Yep. Now, why don't they go to the library to meet other people? Right, because the bar because they really don't go to the library. Most of the people in the library are doing something, so they're kind of busy. They didn't come there to meet people. The reason they have the bar is because that's where you go to meet people. Okay. And the reason the bar serves alcohol is because it makes everyone more sociable, and that's why people came there. They came to be sociable, and they came to meet other people, all lubricated by the alcohol that is served in the bar. Okay, well, so then be quite aware that is what is going on. And if something goes wrong, yes, and it's really nasty, then the guy never should have done. I mean, listen, if he hadn't drugged her, then that would have been okay. I mean, what's the point?
How late at night do you stay up? I might give you because I have to get some sleep sometime.
Give me your daughter's phone. Give me your daughter's phone number. Right.
I need a break. I do need a break.
Right. Or you know what you do? Have her put my picture on as a screensaver. She looks at the phone and
it's like when they put a picture of a fat girl in the refrigerator so they don't eat. You would be like her conscience when she sees it. But yeah, and as I've always told my daughter, this is one thing I always say to her. I say, when you go out, I say, listen, if you have one little drink, that's your decision. By drink number 2, it's not your decision. If you hit drink number 3, it's totally not your decision, and you're on your own.
That's right.
But no, I think you make a really good point, and it's really the responsibility. And I think, unfortunately, in our society today, where we tell girls, it's not your fault. In fact, when we tell girls, listen, the next day you can change your mind and you can go after this guy for rape, it's putting in these girls' head, I have no responsibility. And I think that's a very dangerous situation. And I think, when we see these horrible stories of these girls who walk home from bars by themselves and they get taken and then we never hear from them again and things like that, it all starts with the fact that you have a responsibility. And your responsibility is, listen, there are dangerous guys out there. And if you go out and you go to a bar, you are putting yourselves into a situation that you better be prepared to handle.
But, well, if you really want to take it back, and since, if we've already like blown up half of our world, let me just blow up the other half of the world. And that is, this all started with the birth control pill. Because the idea was when the birth control is, now it's okay, everything is taken care of.
Right.
Nothing can go wrong because it's taken care of.
Those are now in, just to add to your conversation, you can go to vending machines on some college campuses, and they have, not the birth control, it's the morning after
pill,
right.
Right.
They can go to a vending machine.
Right.
So that's, everything
Right.
is taken care of.
So therefore, everything is taken care of. Well, everything is taken care of. The only thing they forgot about is that pregnancy may have been taken care of, but they forgot about your physical abuse, your emotional abuse, your psychological damage. That's not taken care of. But it's seductive because you think that, oh, I'm safe now. Right. Are you safe? Did you take some precautions? So is everything safe? Well, yeah, we're safe for one thing, pregnancy.
Right.
There's a lot more goes into it than just that. And it's absolutely not safe. And as a matter of fact, if you take the pill, you are now at greater risk because when you had the pill, you had to worry about something physically happening, which managed to also save you, your psychology, your psyche, your emotions, your physical body were all saved by the worry that you had about the results. Right. Now you don't have to worry about the results. There's all kinds of problems.
Wow. Interesting talk. But by the way, remind me, when you write in, it's Rabbi Friedman that you want to, your hate-filled letters. This is where you want to send your letters. But again, I got to agree. It's a significant point. We might be coming from different perspectives here, but even from my perspective, again, as I said, I have these conversations every day. Responsibility is in anything in life, and especially with this, especially with girls in these situations. Don't put yourself in the situation. And if you are, you better be prepared. You better have somebody with you. You better be prepared to protect yourself.
That's right.
Oh. Very interesting conversation. I hope we'll be back next week.
Yeah, well, listen, you're responsible for you getting back here now. I'm responsible for me getting back here next week.
Good point. All right, well, we'll see you next week.